Welcome viewers, welcome to the live transmission from CIT. Myself Dr. Jaya Singh from NCERT. To my right is Sandhya Arora, working in Manav Rachna International School, Gurgaon. Today we have taken the topic on industry. Why industry? Although agriculture had been our mainstay of the Indian economy, why did we opt for industry? Industry includes manufacturing activities like handicrafts, and this handicrafts can be seen in the field of garments, hosieries. And what does industry actually includes? It includes quarrying, mining, construction, manufacturing. And how can an industry help in our economic development? It does contributes to our economic development. It generates employment. It is one such sector that can lead India as a competitive power, and it helps in optimum utilization of resources. At the time of before independence, when the Britishers ruled our economy, industry was in very bad situation. Why was it so? They actually made our country as the exporter of the raw material. That is, they wanted India to export raw material for their industry, and they converted India into market for their finished products. Sure. So there was a decline in handicraft industries. Sandhya, I like to know how do you introduce this topic for the students in the classroom?
Ma'am, since the major shift is from rote learning to experiential learning these days, we don't teach from books. Yeah. We bring the real world back to books. Okay. That is, we take the news items, we take the industrialist, which the encouraging stories, then we introduce it in the class. We ask the students about what their experience has been. There are some students who belong to such backgrounds, there are some students whose parents are working with industries. We ask the children to talk to their parents, and then we bring the information which they gather from their real world back to classes.
So there is a learner's participation in your classroom.
Very much.
And then you are bringing out real life experiences in the classroom.
Yes,
by asking students who belong to the background to narrate it in the classroom. Is it so?
And those who do not belong to the background, they learn from the newspapers and come and contribute.
Okay.
Like for example, in the recent today's news itself, we are seeing that Hero Cycles is introducing a new cycle which with the cost of 2000 rupees per bicycle.
Okay.
How will it be doing? What will be the situation in case the manufacturing cost is coming down? There has to be some reason for it. Students go back, research, then come back and tell us this is the manufacturing unit they were following. The process was this much. Because of industry automation, how the cost is coming down, various acquisition and mergers that happen around. The students participate and they tell us. Okay. What they tell us, we jot down and we then ask them to look into the books. When they look into the books, they find the real world in the books.
Okay. So, Sandhya, you have narrated how the topic is introduced in the classroom. And by the way, I just like to introduce to the viewers what would be the objective, like how do we proceed in this session. First, we'll be talking about status of industry on the eve of independence. And then we'll be talking about the occupational structure, its bifurcation in industry, some key points related to economic documents, and then what government is doing to encourage industries, then a few encouraging achievements of the industrialist as well as the state. So now I'll just over to the screen. I'll just like to say how India was treated before independence. In this, I'm repeating it again. India was treated as importer of raw material and exporter of finished product. Now the second point is Britishers had the monopoly rights. They decided what should be bought by the Indians and what should be supplied by the Indians. Then so this led to the misuse of the export surplus, and infrastructure in India was very weak. So the cost of production of the items were very weak or was very high in India. Next point we will take up is over to the screen, sector-wise contribution of GDP in India. We'll show how agriculture had been contributing into the GDP, industry has been contributing, as well as the service sector. We find over the years from 1950 to 1950-51 to 2013-14, the contribution of agriculture has declined. In fact, it has declined to 17%. Now, agriculture, which was contributing 55% in 1950-51 to the GDP, has gone down to 17% in 2013-14. And where has this contribution gone down? This contribution, which has been missed by the agriculture, has been taken over by service sector. Service sector is indicated in blue. We find the contribution of service sector, which was 32 in 1950-51, has increased to around 58% in 2013-14, and industry sector has not increased much. It was very low, that is around 50, in 1950-51 it was around 12%, and it has increased to just 25% in 2013-14. Now the question is, why is it so? Why has industry not grown so much? We'll also see sector-wise contribution in GDP through a pie diagram. Primary sector contributes only 17%, industry sector contributes around 29%, and service sector contributes around 54%. So we see here again, service sector has contributed the maximum and primary sector contributes least, but industry sector has not taken over much. Then there is another data over the period from 1901 to 2000, which shows the occupational distribution of the population. In primary sector, still 56% of the population works in agriculture, followed by secondary sector, where 17% of the population works in industry and 25% of the population works in the service sector or tertiary sector. Over the years, in 1901, 71% population worked in primary sector. Now this has declined to 56%. Secondary sector, 12% population were earlier engaged. Now this has come down to 17%. And tertiary sector, 15% worked here in 1950-51. This has increased to 25.8. One interesting fact is, in case of agriculture sector, GDP contribution has gone down, whereas working population dependent on agriculture is more than 50. Whereas in the case of tertiary sector, GDP sector has increased, but the population working on the tertiary sector is only 25%. So there is a tertiarization of the economy and decline in the contribution of industry sector. Now I'll take up another data. I'll show you how the contribution of three sectors work around here. Agriculture sector, in 2000, the figure shows blue color indicates the production in 2007, followed by brown color 2008, gray in 2009, and 2010 in yellow. So we again see the same thing. The contribution of occupational structure in agriculture has declined, but has not declined much, whereas occupational structure in industry has not increased much, but in case of trade it has taken over. Very interesting fact is again revealed over to the screen through the percentage distribution of workforce by fold for occupation. Sandhya, would you like to discuss this data?
Thank you, ma'am. The analysis, this analysis which you can see on the screen is from 2011 census, and the analysis brings out the changes during last decade, that is 2001 to 2011, and the relative performance over various previous 2 decades is shown over there. There is a sharp decline in cultivators and farmers becoming agriculture laborers. Labor force absorption in non-agriculture is increasing. It is observed that during 2001 to 2011, about 79 million is the net addition to total workforce. Of the total net addition, 2001 to 2011, around 1/3 of it is absorbed in agriculture and rest is absorbed in non-agriculture. Thus, a large part is increasing in labor force and is getting absorbed in non-agriculture services. Now, if we check the rounds, the circles on the data on the screen itself, it says that in 2011, the number of people who are contributing in household industries, that is HHI, we check the male and the female contributions in it. There is a less number of people, less number of men working for HHI in 2011.
Your HHI is household industries?
Yes, ma'am. And others is rest of industries. So, in 2011, females were working more, and in 2011 itself, if we check the other industry, in case we check the industrial labor, the male contribution is more. So, household industries, the women who were working from home, the number is increasing with respect to the men.
Okay. So, in household industry, the contribution of women is more, and in other industries, the contribution of is dominated by the male population. Next, we have industrial sector. At the time of independence, we see there is a, over to the screen please, we see there is a slow growth of modern industry. Why there is a slow growth of modern industry? First of all, there is a lopsided development. Lopsided development means there is a focus on consumer good industry and less focus on capital good industry. So, how does it create problem? Capital good industry tends to promote further production. In case of consumer goods industry, utility gets destroyed after the consumption of a particular commodity. And then there is a weak infrastructure. There is a problem of electricity, transport, and other infrastructure bottlenecks are there. Then there is a poor export promotion strategy. Earlier, Britishers, they were exporting our raw materials, importing finished products. Now, after independence, the policy was made so to protect our economy. In the sense, we provided all possible support. That is, we increased the tariff on the items which were imported from outside, so that our industrialists produce those commodity within our economy itself. Then there has been shortage of managerial and technical power. So this was a situation at the time of independence. After independence, again the situation in industry has not improved much. There has been shift, we have already shown in our data that there has been shift in labor from agriculture to the tertiary sector, that is service sector, bypassing the industry. And secondly, even in the industry there is a demand for skill intensive rather than the labor dominated industries. We'll now discuss two industries, apparel industry and leather footwear industry. India has an advantage compared to China in apparel industry and leather footwear industry. How does this advantage come? In case of India, the wage rate of laborers are low, so the cost of production is low. But this advantage over India could have taken this advantage over China, but this advantage is taken by Bangladesh and Vietnam. How does these two countries take the advantage? The major challenges emerge from the labor regulations and tariff policies. In case when India exports its apparel or footwear, it has to face problem in terms of tariff, particularly in European Union. When the same product is exported from Bangladesh, it is zero tariff. So India's product become expensive in European Union, and in case of leather footwear also, Vietnam has taken over. Again, Vietnam products when it's imported in European Union, it is zero tariff. So India has to pay tariff or duties when it exports its product in the European Union. Then there is another problem which is peculiar to India. There has been change in the global demand. We have shifted from natural fiber, that is cotton, towards the man-made fiber in case of apparel industry. Regarding leather footwear, again there is a demand for non-leather footwear in place of leather footwear. So India, in terms of tariff duty, change in the demand, cannot export as much it could have been to the other countries. Now let's study the status of industry in the various 5-year plan. We have 12 5-year plan. Yes. I'll request Sandhya to discuss it in brief.
Right.
Okay.
So first 5-year plan started in 1951 and till 56 it did happen. On the eve of first 5-year plan, the industrial development was confined largely to the consumer goods sector.
Industry, yeah.
And consumer goods sector like cotton, textile, salt, soap, leather goods and paper, etc.
Okay.
So the intermediate goods like coal, cement, steel, power, alcohol were not focused much. Except for cement, we didn't have proper production capacity too. So overall increase of 38% of industrial production, some renovation was happened up to 38%. Then we came to 56 and 56 to 61, that is the second 5-year plan. And the second 5-year plan, the top priority of this program was on industrialization. Based on Mahalanobis model, the second plan established the setting up of basic heavy industries, so that industrial policy resolution 1956, that is public sector steel plants were established at Rourkela, at Bhilai and at Durgapur. These were the backward areas where industrial revolution did happen. Almost all the plans were established, and in third 5-year plan, that is in 61-66, the planning and the long-term perspective did happen. So installation was to achieve the integrated growth of industry and agriculture, and the basic strategy was the development of public sector and heavy industries, so that the self-sustained growth is maintained. So second and third plans faced greater emphasis on building up capital goods and industries. So basic industries were set it up. Industrial structure was built up, and in third after this third 5-year plan, we faced drought, because of which the economic planning did not happen the way we wanted. So after 3 annual plans, the fourth 5-year plan from 69 till 74, the planned increase of 8% of industrial production per annum could not happen. Actual rate was only 5%, which we did achieve. 75% of total investment was in core sectors, that is in iron, steel, in non-ferrous metals, fertilizers, petrochemicals, coal, iron ore, etc. And the widespread shortage of power, agriculture, raw material and industry were basically reasons for less growth.
Okay, so in the initial 5-year plan, we find not much attention paid to capital good industries, and in the second 5-year plan,
industries were those set up.
Yeah.
But it takes comparatively longer time for basic industries to start at a production method. Also there was industrial unrest during that time. We faced drought, we faced various other problems, because of which industrial development did not happen the way it should have
happened. So heavy industries came during the second 5-year plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So in fifth 5-year plan, if we continue, from 74 to 79, the focus was on rapid development of core sectors this time, covering steel, machine power, coal, petroleum and arid export oriented industries and consumer good industries such as sugar, drugs, textile, etc. Industrial growth was slow despite the introduction of several incentives to private sector, and the reasons for slow growth was imbalance in production of basic industrial inputs and unremunerative price and industrial unrest.
Okay. I think new economic policy has begun from 7th 5-year plan.
Yes, ma'am. So for sixth five-year plan, the industrial progress, if we took the stock, there was almost 5 times. In 35 years, 5 times industrial progress did happen, but we were very slow with respect to rest of the neighbors. In case you, as you talked about China and Taiwan, we were facing, the growth was not as expected.
Okay.
So in seventh five-year plan, when we started with the liberalizing our policies, when we started with privatization, things came to hand. It took a little while, but yes, we were working next.
So, can you just briefly talk about 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th 5-year plan?
Yes, ma'am. So, when we talk about the next 5-year plan, the seventh 5-year plan?
We have done all the new economic policy came at the time of 7th 5-year plan.
So, 7th 5-year plan, 8.5% per annum was achieved against the target of 8%. This time, first time we did achieve what we actually targeted for, a little more than that. And rapid economic growth and social justice were the main criteria. In 8th 5-year plan, that is in 1991, now the LPG did happen. In 8th 5-year plan, industrial trade and foreign investment policies were substantially liberalized, and in 8th 5-year plan, less importance was given to quantitative targets. As per plan, the desired growth of different sectors will be achieved primarily through modification in industrial trade, fiscal policies and change in duties and taxes rather than through quantitative restrictions on import and exports or licensing mechanism. So for 9th 5-year plan, the target was 8.2%, but because of various factors such as lack of domestic demand for the intermediate goods, high oil prices, existence of excess capacity in some sectors, business cycles, infrastructure constraints, particularly power, road transport and subdued capital market, industrial production did not pick up much. In the year 2001 and 2, there was a slowdown in world output which contributed to not achieving the target in our country as well. In 10th 5-year plan, there was an acceleration in industrial growth rate, and in 11th 5-year plan, the production was set at 10% per annum, and in manufacturing sector growth target is set at 12%. However, wake of global recession, the government is contemplating a modernization in these areas. Now, when we talk about the 12th 5-year plan, which is currently running, with comparison to Taiwan and China, the industrial rate in our country is comparatively slow. So now basic work is done, basic characteristic is towards Startup India, towards various other industries, so that the rapid industrial growth does happen.
Sandhya, before we proceed, I'd just like to let us know what are the sectors included under industries.
Sectors?
Sectors means what are the various components of industries?
Construction, then we have
manufacturing,
we have light, we have gas, we have mining and quarrying. That is part of industry.
And these are the components which have been featured in various 5-year plan. And earlier, public sector was given importance, and after a new economic policy, private sector is being given importance. So we'll take up the second. Second slide, over to the screen please. Public sector, why was public sector given importance in the second 5-year plan? We need to discuss this question. First, public sector encouraged heavy industries. This was not possible from the private sector. Why was it so? Because investment in heavy industries like steel, mill, coal, lignites require huge investment, and this huge investment is not possible from the private individuals. Secondly, there was investment in heavy industries, and public sector was encouraged because another important reason is government wanted to discourage concentration of economic power in the hands of few. There was a provision that the impact of industrialization should reach the maximum people. So a trickle-down effect was recommended for second 5-year plan. When there is a heavy industry, naturally heavy industry will require manufacturing of small parts from the other industry, and this will lead to filtration of industries in other parts of the country, but this did not happen so. Then we needed appropriate appropriate price policy for the output. Over a period, when government sets up the price is set up in a very optimum manner, in the sense everybody can afford it, and there is the absence of profit motive. And there is another point, wage policy is fixed by the government. So public sector was encouraged so that it becomes an employer role model for other industries. Then after our new economic policy came into being, public sector was discouraged. Public sector was not encouraged. In fact, space was given to private industries. Now, there is a question, why was it so? Because now our economy has reached to such a position where not much protection was needed to be given to the upcoming industries like biotechnology and so. So these technologies, these industries were passed on to the private individuals, or to the private persons, or to the private companies. Here government allowed 51, over to the screen, 51% equity in 6 sectors, that is coal, arms, atomic energy, radioactive minerals, railway, transport, etc. So after independence, public sector was given importance. After the new economic policy came into the picture, private sector was given importance. Now next, over to the screen, there has been importance given to the foreign direct investment. Why investment was allowed from the foreigners or through the foreign countries? One reason is that it's a non-debt financial resource, in the sense when you get foreign investment, you need not pay interest to the person, because they invest directly in your company.
But they share profit.
They share the profits. They don't pay you the interest, but you don't have to pay the interest, but they share your profits. Then there is ease of doing business, particularly in defense, broadcasting, civil aviation, plantation. So you find this government purchasing defense equipment from Russia and from USA and other European countries. Then in India, in case of foreign direct investment, there has been inflow of fund from Mauritius, Singapore, US and so on. Now I'll request you to discuss about the case studies of some of the industrialists. Then we'll talk about SMEs, that is small micro industries. Then we'll talk about startup and Stand Up India.
Right. So since Tata Industries and Birla Industries is almost known to everyone, let's pick up a story which has actually inspired Tata Industries too. For example, we have Shrikant Bhola. The world knows about him. He's a blind man, and in grade 10th, when he secured position, he topped the 10th board. He was denied admission in sciences.
He was denied admission because it was not expected that visually impaired can do experiments in science, and if they don't do experiment, they should not be allowed science.
Exactly.
Okay.
So he, when someone tells him that you can't do this, he turns back and says, yes, I can do anything. He was denied admission in grade 11 sciences. He topped with sciences. He filed a case against the school, won it in 6 months, and finally was given the admission. He cleared it. He just not cleared it, he topped it. He was denied admission in IIT. And then he got admission in MIT. Now when he's
MIT is Massachusetts Institute of Technology, USA.
Yes, ma'am.
So he was denied admission in IIT and he got admission in MIT.
With 100% scholarship.
Okay.
Now he's running a 50 crore business.
How is he doing it?
Through his willpower.
So
yes, industries is working well for him. Also he has a vision to run the industries, his industries, that is Bulant Enterprises, with 70% disabled people working with him. Tata Industries quietly did invest in the industries to help him start. Ratan Tata was really impressed by the courage and the work done by Bhola, Shrikant Bhola.
Okay, Sandhya, I'll request you to throw more light on the story of Sandhya Bhola and Shrikant Bhola, and how did he set up the industries?
Ma'am, he did set up his industries in 4 different places in South India itself. One is in Hubli, one is in Nizamabad, and 2 are in Hyderabad. There is a new plant coming up in Sri City, and he is into producing eco-friendly, disposable and compostable products. So he produces that and supplies that. This is how he works. Then there is another industry, that is Prashant Kulkarni. So Prashant Kulkarni also is first person to brand the Golgappas.
Okay.
His chatter patter works really well with 27 type of charts and pohas. Due to time constraint, could have shared more, but yes, these are real life small stories which work with our students well.
Okay.
It inspires them.
I'll just like to take up, because time is running fast. Make in India, here effort has been made to make India as investment destination. That means people from different countries can invest to encourage manufacturing in India. There is another policy initiated by the government, that is Startup India. Here this program has been taken up to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. In this Startup India, 19 action items include hand-holding, simplification, funding, support, incentives. So we find over the period India is finding space in terms of industry. Occupational composition has increased, is moving favorable towards industry, and industry is contributing much towards GDP, but industry has a huge potential, and if we have a healthy infrastructure, it's not far when India can become one of the industrialized country in the world. Sandhya, I like to thank everybody, including I thank to all the faculty member, crew member of the CIT for bringing out this healthy program to the learners. Thank you.